how a family recipe became a global culinary obsession. It began as a meal meant for no one else. No audience, no ambition, just survival, memory, and instinct. This story matters now because authenticity has become a currency, traded and diluted at scale. Yet the most powerful ideas often emerge without intention to impress. To understand how a simple family recipe transformed into a global obsession, we need to return to a kitchen where preservation mattered more than innovation. Because today, the same tension between tradition and attention defines modern culture. The recipe was never written down. It lived through repetition, through hands that learned by watching, not measuring, passed quietly between generations. It adapted only when it had to. Ingredients shifted with availability. Techniques bent with circumstance. But the essence remained untouched. For decades, it stayed invisible, cooked for family gatherings, prepared during difficult seasons, shared without explanation. No one called it special. It was simply familiar, comforting, reliable. In a world changing rapidly, it stayed the same. Then came displacement, a move driven by necessity, not opportunity. The family carried little with them. No capital, no reputation, only memory. And in a new place, surrounded by unfamiliar tastes, the recipe became an anchor. At first, it was cooked privately, a reminder of home, a way to maintain identity. But friends asked to try it. Neighbors followed. Small requests turned into regular visits. Plates returned empty. Conversations lingered longer than expected. Something about the dish crossed boundaries. It didn't ask for context. It didn't require explanation. It communicated directly through warmth, texture, and balance. People felt something they couldn't name, but wanted again. Soon, curiosity replaced coincidence. Requests turned intentional. Word traveled beyond the neighborhood. Still, the family hesitated. This food was not designed for scale. It was designed for care. But the world has a way of finding what feels real. And once attention arrives, it rarely leaves quietly. What followed would test whether tradition could survive desire. As attention grew, the recipe faced its first real challenge. Repetition outside the family changed the stakes. Cooking for love was one thing. Cooking for expectation was another. The family adjusted carefully. Portions increased. Prep began earlier. The kitchen stayed small, but time stretched longer. Every step still followed memory, not instruction. Measurements lived in instinct. Timing lived in feel. That flexibility made the food alive, but also fragile. Guests asked questions. Where did this come from? What was in it? Could it be made faster? Could it be packaged? Each question carried opportunity and risk in equal measure. At first, the family resisted. Explanation felt like exposure. Writing the recipe down felt like betrayal. This food had survived because it stayed personal. Turning it into a product threatened its soul. However, demand kept rising. Lines formed. Regulars returned weekly. Some traveled across the city just to taste it again. The dish began appearing in conversations far removed from its origin. Online posts spread without context. Photos circulated without permission. With visibility came pressure. Suppliers pushed substitutions. Advisors suggested consistency over intuition. Scaling required compromise. And compromise asked a dangerous question. How much change could the recipe survive? Inside the family, tension surfaced. Generations disagreed. Elders feared loss. Younger members saw a possibility. Arguments unfolded quietly over late meals and early mornings. Everyone wanted the same thing, preservation, but they imagined different paths. Then came the offer, a partnership promising reach and security, better equipment, wider distribution, recognition beyond anything imagined. The decision felt irreversible. Accepting meant surrendering control. Refusing meant turning away from opportunity that might never return. The recipe had endured wars, scarcity, and migration. But this challenge was different. This time, the threat was success itself, and the choice they made would redefine not just a dish, but their identity. The decision fractured the calm that once surrounded the recipe. Meetings replaced meals. Timelines replaced instincts. What was once shared freely now had consequences attached to every choice. Production began carefully, then accelerated. The kitchen expanded. New hands joined the process. Each step was documented, standardized, measured. Consistency became the goal. And with it, something subtle began to slip. The elders noticed first. The flavor was close, but not exact. The warmth arrived later. The finish felt shorter. Nothing was wrong, but something was missing. The recipe still worked. It just no longer spoke the same way. Customers noticed too, though they struggled to explain it. Some returned less often. Others insisted it tasted identical. Online praise continued. Numbers grew. On paper, success was undeniable. Inside the family, conflict deepened. One side saw survival secured. The other saw erosion. Arguments no longer circled logistics, but values. Was the recipe meant to feed many, or mean something to a few? Then came the moment that forced clarity. A long-time regular returned after months away. They took one bite, paused, and smiled politely. Then they said something devastatingly simple. It's good, but it doesn't feel like before. That sentence lingered longer than any review. It confirmed a fear no metric could measure. The recipe had crossed a line, not ruined, but transformed. The family faced an uncomfortable truth. Attention had preserved the dish physically, but altered it emotionally. The question was no longer about growth. It was about intention. So they made a choice that confused advisors and alarmed partners. They slowed everything down, reduced output, returned control to fewer hands, accepted loss in exchange for meaning. The recipe began to breathe again, imperfect, inconsistent, alive. That choice did not reverse time, but it restored direction, and it carried the story toward its most resonant moment. The moment of resolution did not arrive with applause or headlines. It arrived during a quiet service, when the kitchen felt familiar again. Fewer orders, slower pace, hands moving with memory instead of instruction. The recipe returned to its original rhythm, not exactly as before, but closer in spirit, adjusted by time, shaped by loss, strengthened by choice. It no longer tried to satisfy everyone. It focused on being true again. Some customers disappeared. Others stayed, sensing the shift without explanation. The food spoke more softly now, but more clearly. It reminded people why they came in the first place. Not for novelty, but for connection. The family accepted a smaller future. Less growth, less noise, more meaning. The recipe continued, not as a trend, but as a living tradition. One that could still change, but only on its own terms. Today, in a world eager to extract and replicate authenticity, this story feels urgent. It asks whether something can be shared without being stripped of its soul. Whether success must always come at the cost of feeling. The family never chased obsession. It found them anyway. And when it did, they chose memory over momentum. So what do you think? Are we repeating the same mistake again? How